Whew, it's another useless international break. So let's talk about some hot takes on Chelsea this season. Oh, it's another boring international break. I could not give two shits about friendly games, to be honest. So all I'm hoping is that we have no injuries after the break. So here we go. Let's talk about some interesting Chelsea things that have been running through my mind while I've been waiting for the next game to happen. So let's go through the list. I think number one, which is not winning the Carabao Cup and FA Cup the last season, was actually the best blessing in disguise. Now, I think this one's pretty controversial. It's something that I've been kind of debating whether or not that's accurate or not. Now, if you look at United, I think they're a good example. Is they won the FA Cup. They were happy. They celebrated. And, winning trophies, I think, is always important. And that's the history of the club. You can never take away a trophy from a team. But as you can see, because of that FA Cup win, they decided to not let go of Erik ten Hag and look at the absolute mess they are in right now. Now, I think we're in kind of a similar boat. If we had won either the FA or Carabao Cup last season, I think that would have been enough support to keep Pochettino, in which case we would not have Maresca. We would still probably be playing Colwell in left back, despite having Cucurella back. Palmer might still be on the right wing. We probably would still have Gallagher, maybe or not, because, we probably still wouldn't, because it's not like Pochettino makes decisions on transfers anyways. But I actually think, even though at the end of last season, I was very much Poch-in because of our good run of form, but to be honest, if you review the end of the last season and this season, it's just a complete night and day difference between Pochettino and Maresca. Last season, it took us, 8-9 months before we had any pattern in play. Pochettino constantly played players out of position. He made Colwell, who I think is one of the best center backs in the entire league and has incredible passing range. He took that and put him on the wing for no reason, and that completely destroyed his game. And he's even come out this season saying that, that was not his best position last season. He couldn't show off his talent. He couldn't show off his passing range. But this season, we can see why Brighton wanted to keep him, why Liverpool wanted him from us. And then I think another major thing is that last year, apart from not having patterns of play, is we didn't really adapt to whatever team we were playing. And this season, pretty much every game, our formation, our plan is just a little bit different because it's very evident to me that Maresca is just a better technical manager than Pochettino. I'd like that we start games off on the front foot. I also like that if something is not going right, he makes quick changes at halftime. He's not afraid to say, hey, I made a mistake. And you know what? Pretty much every game this season, we've come out looking stronger in the second half. And that is down to the manager at halftime, using that time wisely, getting good tactical changes in, telling players what they need to do differently. Whereas last season, even if we're playing fantastic first half, we somehow ended up coming out second half completely clueless. And that's not on the players. That is down to Pochettino. I don't know what kind of messaging he was giving the players last season, but we came out so deflated. If we were losing, we were going to lose more. If we were winning, we were going to give up a goal and tie or lose. It was not pretty. And look at what Maresca has done to the team after just a few months with him. We are now solidly challenging top four. And many people are speaking about Chelsea being in the title race, which is another hot take we'll talk about later. Yeah, so I actually think that if we had won any trophy last year and Poch would have stayed, I don't think we would be in this position. Not even close. So hindsight is always 2020. It's always hard to say as a fan that you would prefer progress over trophies because, trophies live on forever. And if you backtrack a few years, I wouldn't give up that Champions League trophy for anything. But in this case, I think given how young our team is, the trajectory that we want to go, how bad we've been the last few seasons, I think getting Maresca, a manager that clearly is just absolute class, that is tactically good, the players enjoy playing with them. He has a clear vision and style for the team. And clearly he's in line with our sporting directors and their vision for the team. And I think that's more important than any temporary success winning the FA Cup and Carabao Cup would have been last season. In my opinion, I think your position in the league table reflects overall state of the team far more than winning any cup competitions, especially any domestic cups. So I would rather see this team progress into top 4 and beyond and have a solid foundation to build on than to have a random win. Next hot take, which is, everybody's been waxing lyrical on Cole Palmer, and credit is where it is due. He's been absolutely fantastic. I think a lot of people wondered after last year's incredible record-breaking debut season, can he produce again? And I think this season, and there are times where he hasn't even played that well. You can tell he's sometimes like pushing a little bit too hard on his own, but the numbers don't lie. His goals and assists this season have been absolutely wild, and that's while he hasn't been, I would say, at peak form. He didn't have a preseason with us. He was busy in the Euros. So I think it's taken him a few weeks to really catch up. But I think after this international break, we're going to see Cole Palmer just absolutely light on fire, even more so than he already has. And I think what's incredible about him this season, even more than last season, is that it does not matter where he plays. He can play as a 6 and he can find that killer pass to Jackson or to Madueke. He can play in that kind of right-sided 8 role in the half space, which I think is his best position. And he could do anything in that position. He could take it on himself. He could find the right pass into the box. He could find the right cross. He could take the shot, anything. And then, of course, his finishing during certain games this season have been unbelievable. But I would say the hot take is that Cole Palmer can win the Ballon d'Or one day. I legitimately think he can. And I think he's a better all-round player than Haaland. I think he's certainly a hell of a lot better in terms of contributing to a team than someone even like Mbappe, who everybody says should be winning the Ballon d'Or one day. To be honest, I don't think Mbappe is that good. I think he's extremely talented, but he's incredibly selfish. He's been a star in a league that's honestly not very competitive. And he's joined a Real Madrid team that I don't think actually needs him. I don't think he plays the central striker role very well at Real Madrid. That's not his preferred position. And you can tell he and Vinicius are constantly getting in the way of each other. And that really unbalances that great Real Madrid team. They should have gotten someone like Haaland, and that team would have dominated for the next decade. But I honestly think Mbappe is going to be more issues for Madrid than positives. But for someone like Cole Palmer, who is involved in every phase of the game, he can run back to help in defense. He can help him build up. He can find that killer last pass, and he can score. This is an absolute class of a player, and it's rare to have someone who can do anything they want on a pitch, regardless of their position. I would say it's a high likelihood that Palmer can win the Ballon d'Or. But we all know Ballon d'Or is kind of a popularity contest, and you have to win trophies to win Ballon d'Or. So the entire team has to be better, and we have to not only be in the top 4, but we have to be legitimately challenging for the top of the league and Champions League for him to get that chance. But do I think that's possible? Absolutely. I think the sky is the limit for Palmer. And I, for one, I'm just enjoying the ride. I cannot wait to see what else this player and this team can produce in the future. Next one, which is not so much a hot take since a lot of people are talking about it. Chelsea being in the title race. Do I think we're in the title race right now? Sure. We're not that far off from the top. We're only a few points behind. But I do think the next month and a half will be a humongous test. We have Liverpool. We have Newcastle twice, but one of them is not in the league. We have Man U, and we have Arsenal. Now, I think if we can get points off of Liverpool and Arsenal, and then also beat United and Newcastle, oh man, we are in. I don't particularly think we have to beat Arsenal and Liverpool. It's just showing that we can take points off of them, because last season we played really well against them and we lost. And that was purely down to Sanchez being absolutely insane during the Arsenal game, especially giving away the goal of Declan Rice where we were up ahead. Yeah, I think we can legitimately challenge for the title if the next month and a half goes well. Now, if we lose to both Liverpool and Arsenal and then we drop points against Newcastle and United, no, then we're fully out. We got to be beating Newcastle and United minimum, especially United. There is no excuse. This team is just down in the depths right now. I want to show up and just kick them while they're down. I want to beat them 10-0. Don't care. Yeah, I want Cole Palmer to score 6 goals Doesn't matter to me. I just want to beat the absolute shit out of United because I cannot stand that team. But I'm super excited about the next month and a half. Also very nervous. Some huge matches coming up, but it'll be a good litmus test for how we truly stand this season. Next hot take, which is on Palmer and Jackson as a duo are equivalent or better than Drogba and Lampard. Look, I think this one is nuts. Both Drogba and Lampard are absolute club legends. Not because they just posted on stats, they weren't like stat demons. It was because both of those players delivered when it mattered. They were there for the big games always, especially Drogba. The bigger the occasion, the more he showed up. The amount of times he scored in finals to get the tying goal, to get the winning goal when we desperately needed it, and to be true leaders on and off the field, that's what makes them incredible. It's not just about numbers. And I'm sorry, right now, Palmer and Jackson are nowhere near those two, especially Jackson. He tends to score the most against the easier oppositions. Last year, his stats were greatly boosted by that insane game against Tottenham. But yeah, as you can see from our last game, when we really need someone to show up and just like grab the team and put us on your back and just get a goal from absolutely nothing, Jackson's not that player. Jackson's the player that's going to look good if the rest of the team is looking good, but he is not that singular player that will make a difference. So no, unless he keeps up his stats and he starts showing up in big games year in, year out, like Lampard, like Drogba did, and this is not even close to a discussion, like not even close. I don't even want to hear them compared to Drogba and Lampard unless we've legitimately won a trophy with them or they've shown their current trajectory for seasons on end. Next one, which is Enzo Fernandez. This one's awkward because, the amount of money that we spent on Enzo, he clearly has his downsides. He's been looking shaky this season during games. Sometimes, like the last game, his 2 corner kicks, not even making it past the first man when we desperately needed a winning goal. I mean, things that are like that are just extremely frustrating to watch as fans because it's not like he can't do it, right? The thing with Enzo is that his talent is peak, like one of the most talented players in the world. It's just his negatives are, he's not very fast. He's not terribly athletic. He is a liability in defense because he's just not a defender. You really can't expect him to track back and defend like Caicedo does. That's just not him as a player. He'll never be that player. So he has to make up for his defensive liabilities in terms of what he can do in build-up and especially in the final third. Now, I've seen a lot of people say that Enzo doesn't fit into his team. He needs to be better. We're better without Enzo. And I disagree. And I think mainly because if you look at the first Servette game and our game against Bournemouth, where Enzo was not part of the team, you could tell we were missing something. We were missing something in build-up. It wasn't flowing as well. And that, I think, is Enzo's magic. I think he does a lot of the things that to the average viewer, you're just never going to notice because he's not that flashy player. He's not that person to put in that perfect cross into the final third. He's not that person who's going to show up in the box and score a goal. That's just not him. I thought that might be him. That's not him. But he is that player who controls the tempo of the game. And that is hugely important. If you look back last season, we had no tempo control whatsoever. Like if we were getting broken on, it was just again and again, just kind of crazy back and forth. And he's a player that is able to slow things down when it needs to be. He can speed it up. He can put the correct pass to link midfield into the front three. And that is one of the most important things for a midfielder to do is to know what to do with the ball, not to lose it, know how to recycle it. So no, I'm not going to believe that Enzo doesn't contribute to this team. Now, do I think he's contributing enough to justify the amount that he's getting paid, the amount that we spent on his transfer fee? Probably not. I would expect someone with a little bit more assists and goals or just a better shot taking ability. I think his free takes are fine. He scored one really incredible free kick for us. If you actually just look at the way he shoots, it's never shooting with power. He always tries to go for that finesse curling shot. The problem is his accuracy is not good enough to consistently try that time and time again. And sometimes you just need to put your foot through the ball and hit as hard as you can into the corner. That's all you need to do. You don't have to finesse every single shot, right? So I think there are definite areas that Enzo can work on. I think he needs to just be more consistent in showing his class. I think anyone that says that he does not fit into this team is just not really understanding his role, and they're not really noticing the little things that he does that really contributes to this team. And then lastly, this one's awkward, is Reece James. Man, club captain, the guy I got on the back of my shirt, one of my favorite players to come out of the academy in like the last decade, probably even more than Mason Mount. I love Reece James. I love what he represents for the club. I love when he's on, I think he is one of the best right backs on the planet. Like in terms of his raw pace, his strength and defense, people just cannot go around him. His crossing ability, the ability that he has to run up and put in the absolute perfect cross. And of course, his shooting ability too is just, all of it is incredible. But what's not incredible is that all that talent is useless if you cannot be on the pitch. I have this little statistic box of his injury record the last few seasons, and it's unbelievable. I mean, we're seeing like him only maybe a half to a third of the season, if even. And the problem with that is he's not getting enough run of games to, one, get his confidence back, and two, to even prove that he can stay fit for an extended period of time. Right? I feel like ever since mid last season, every time he's come on, he's looked very timid. You could tell this is a player that's very unsure of his body because he doesn't know how hard he can push. And then getting the red cards for silly reasons, for being fouled. You can tell like he's like on like a little knife's edge when he plays. Like if he gets fouled, that's a little bit uncomfortable for him. He lashes out because I can understand, he just came back from a long injury. Last thing he wants is someone making a stupid tackle on him to get injured again. But then he loses his cool and gets a red card. And I'm sorry, we just need something better from a captain. Number one, I think a captain has to be on the pitch. Like you have to play games. I understand the captain does a lot in dressing room, a lot during training. So there's a lot of stuff that he can do. But number one, the players look up to him. And part of that is to be playing well week in, week out on the pitch. And it's such a shame. And I think the hot take is like, should we continue on with James? He has a hugely high salary. I think he's one of the highest paid players on the team, maybe like 200 to 250K a week. That's no joke, and well-deserved for all the stuff that he's done during games. I think that's well-deserved when he's on the pitch. And then secondly is, should he be our captain? Should we just say, hey, let's cut our losses? Maybe you should move to somewhere that's a different climate, to a less physical league. Maybe that'll help you protect your body more, like the Italian league or Spanish league. I don't know. I would say right now, with him just coming back to full training, I would be so upset if we were legitimately thinking about selling Reece James. I think he means so much to the club. He represents our academy. And I think that is vastly important when you have this many young players who are actively signing for the club. And when you have so much talented players in our academy, like they have to be able to see that there is a path to the first team. Otherwise, young players get demoralized and then, their careers fall off. Whereas if they just were nurtured correctly and were given the opportunity, who knows, they could go on to become world beaters. So yeah, I think it's far too early to give up on Reece James, but I do think this season is really, really important. We've just haven't really seen him. But if he gets a good run of games, he shows his ability. And honestly, Gusto is a little bit injury prone too. Like he needs a good backup that's more than Disasi. So I think if Reece James can prove that he can play a significantly more number of games this season than last season or the season before, I think we have to keep him. I think if he's spending another season mainly on the bench, only playing maybe like, a handful of games here and there, man, then I think summertime is going to be tough. I think it's not unreasonable for people to say, hey, maybe it's time to move on. Even for your sake, maybe it's better for you to just get a change of scenery so you can rebuild your career and not spend, your entire time in our rehab center. But yeah, I think it's far too early to make a decision on him, but I do think this season ends up being extremely important. So that's all I got in terms of hot takes. Let me know if you have any more that you want to discuss. My main thing is I cannot wait till the Liverpool game this weekend. I'm a little bit annoyed because I was supposed to be off and then I had to pick up a shift at work, so be it. I'll still be enjoying the game probably after work. Can't wait to see what happens with Liverpool. I think that's our first huge test. I think this Liverpool team is obviously beatable. I think we are good enough to give this Liverpool team a legitimate game. And kind of similar to us, they've had a very easy start to the season. So for them too, we are going to be a big test. And I cannot wait to see how Maresca faces off against Slot. I think both of these managers need to prove a lot in terms of how to take on games at the highest level. So yeah, can't wait. See you guys after Liverpool game. Peace.